You are tuned in to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebs and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and enthogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck, Rico Lamitte, and Nicole West, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for getting high at 9 with us.
High at 9.
Oh yeah, you got this, Rico? You want me?
Yeah, I'm doing the intro. They got to put me in the center. Oh yeah. Good morning and welcome back, everybody. It's Tuesday, October 18th. Today is International Legging Day, National Exascale Day, and National Chocolate Cupcake Day. Thank you for joining and getting high at 9 with us. Once again, it's also high noon on the East Coast. Please remember to like, share, subscribe to us on all social media platforms. We're live Monday to Friday on YouTube, Twitch, and audio only at Clubhouse. If you are in Clubhouse, you can also participate in the show by raising your hand if you have a brief comment on the story presented. Without further ado, we are going to be bringing up our first guest.
No, we do a commercial. We pay a bill. First, we pay a bill. Let's go ahead and run that True Classic commercial, and then we'll go ahead and get it.
Let's run.
At True Classic OG, we live by one motto: stay true. We stay true to our legacy cut of True OG that's always fresh, piney, gassy, and delicious. We represent the spirit, hustle, and diversity of our great city of Angels. And we stay true to the spirit of this plant, doing everything in-house to ensure that you get the highest quality and consistency with every batch. And that's what's made us LA's favorite OG. True Classic OG. Stay true, Los Angeles.
Are we good now?
We're here.
We're here. You're on the screen. You're the main.
All right. That wasn't on script. As a felon, the woman formerly, or am I doing
the first one is the show run of shows in the
what's that?
The run of shows in the Discord.
All right.
It's Jason's first. We
have coming up first today. So we switched up the fucking script today. So thank you for your patience, everybody. The longest continuously operating retailer in the industry, better known as Gucci Blanco to the Mar-a-Lago fans down south. White Gucci in Detroit, where cats get locked up for smoking CBD. And in his spare time, he enjoys smoking the best weed in the world. Coming to the stage first is my good friend, the ivory to my ebony, Mr. Jason Beck. Happy Tuesday, brother. What you got for us?
Oh, yeah. Good morning, Rico. Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. I have some interesting news for everybody, because I am going to tell you guys what states have the most arrests for marijuana possession. That's right. According to data available in the FBI's Crime Data Explorer, an interactive portal for exploring crime statistics through the Uniform Crime Reporting Program, state and local law enforcement agencies reported 170,856 arrests for marijuana possession in 2021, down from over 226,000 in 2020. Arrests don't always lead to convictions or prison sentences. I guess that's a disclaimer. But nonetheless, Texas alone reported more than 21,000 arrests last year, making it responsible for 12% of the nation's total. New York and New Jersey were steadily the second and third highest contributors to the nation's total, up until 2021, when both states legalized adult use cannabis, and had subsequent drops in reported counts of arrests. They both reported more than 19,000 arrests in 2020 alone, and only reported 783 combined in 2021. That year, Tennessee and North Carolina moved into second and third place, respectively, as the highest contributors to the nation's total arrest count. Proportional to population, Idaho had the highest rate of reported arrests at 232 per 100,000 people, and North Dakota had the second highest rate with 227 per 100,000 people, followed by Louisiana at 203 per 100,000 people. However, these figures may be significantly underestimate actual arrests. In 2020, 85% of law enforcement agencies participated in the National Incident-Based Reporting System, which informs the FBI's Crime Data Explorer. In 2021, that figure declined to 63%, and in New York and New Jersey combined, participation went from 89% of law enforcement agencies in 2020 to merely 13% in 2021. That low participation is largely due to an overhaul in the reporting system. Research suggests people of color are more likely to be penalized for marijuana possession than their white counterparts. A recent report by the American Civil Liberties Union found that in 2018, unchanged from 2010, black people were still nearly 4 times more likely than white people to get arrested for marijuana possession, despite similar usage rates. Of the 31 states in which marijuana is still legally for adult use purposes, five have it as a ballot. 5 have it as a ballot issue next month. Voters in Arkansas, Maryland, Missouri, North Dakota, and South Dakota will decide whether adult use cannabis will be legalized in their next month's election. So I'll tell you what, if you live in one of those 5 states, make sure that you're registered to vote, and make sure that you smoke the vote and pass the vote and share it with your friends and get everybody participating in the process. And this is Jason Beck reporting for the High at 9 News.
So y'all remember the rock the vote thing in the 90s?
Yes.
I think we should do toke the vote.
Like toke the vote.
I don't know. It's just quick off the top of my head.
Smoke the vote, toke the votes.
Ooh,
I think they had smoke the vote. Wasn't that a campaign a couple years ago?
Definitely already existed.
Yeah, smoke the vote did
but
exist.
I like toke the vote. I haven't heard that one. Toke the vote. I haven't heard that one before.
It's definitely not as cool as smoke the vote, but
Smoke the vote was Normal's thing. It looks like about
that makes sense.
a decade ago they started saying smoke the vote.
At least,
When they started doing lobby days.
They have t-shirts.
Normal does not do lobby days.
Yeah, like Normal's their Normal is lobby days in there, Normal is daily lobby days in their world.
They've been lobbying
in their own minds. They're daily lobbying.
I said in their world. I said in their world, Gretchen. I didn't have to say in their minds. In their world, they are their own.
I will clarify for anyone who did not understand. Anyway, this doesn't find. I don't find this article surprising at all. Jason, neither does Salem. Salem, shut up.
Salem's very opinionated today.
She is. Did you say Texas was number 1, or was it
Texas
Idaho?
was number 1. Texas was number 1, but when you break it down based off population on a per capita basis, Idaho.
Okay, well, we know Idaho is very anti, and Texas, they got the population to be anti. I wonder what some of these other states that do have some form of legalization already in place, was someone perhaps committing another crime and then had cannabis on them as well.
I mean, that's very possible.
This doesn't say that these people just got picked up just for cannabis, does it?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't mention anything like that in regards to that. These are only marijuana arrests. It just is marijuana arrests in general. Therefore, anyone that's been arrested knows you can get charged and arrested for a whole host of crimes all at one time, and so that would just go into the data. But I think kind of the point of this thing is the fact that they are doing less reporting, so we're actually getting bad data now instead of good data as prior, because of the lack of reporting.
I think it's hard to say whether or not we had good data to begin with. I mean, this is all based on reporting that these guys are doing on their own. I mean, it's not like this stuff is fed into real databases, this is exactly it. I mean, I've done some work on the state level trying to get cannabis records, and it's just impossible because every county, every municipality does everything completely different. So that there aren't these kind of, big repositories that have this kind of information.
And I will second that. Working with M4MM's Project Clean Slate, that's one of the biggest problems we run into, is actually trying to find the records. And then, of course, if there are charges that are compounded on top of simple possession, then that makes it even harder to try to get the record separated and expunged. But that's been the hardest part. And that's here in America. How hard do you think that is? Something like that is in Trinidad or Dominica or South Africa. It's damn near impossible.
Have any of the other, I've not really heard any movement towards like expungement or anything like that outside of America in the conversation of cannabis, like I'm thinking about it right now when you said that, Nicole, and I'm like, we talk about this.
So there are countries
where
so Jamaica has decriminalized. They haven't necessarily talked about an expungement, but
no, that's what I mean. There's a ton of countries that are doing that. I'm saying like actually having like expungement clinics, like the things that America is trying to do right now, or like you know what I mean? Like I know there's a lot of countries that are saying, oh, decriminalized, or like we're not arresting you anymore.
So
I've not heard about that
in the Trinidad bill, and I only know this because I've been studying it. They do have language in there. The bill has not passed yet, but they do have language in there about expungement and erasing past records. So the problem, though, with Trinidad is how far back you can go with records that are actually digitized or records that you could actually even find. And that's one of the countries that I was talking about, because they can't do mass pardons because some of those records, they no longer exist. They can't find them. The police station burned down, whatever the case may be. And it's harder to track down their actual record and charges and get them removed.
We do have Dr. Felicia up from the audience in Clubhouse to make a brief comment on this. Go ahead, Dr. Felicia.
Well, it will be brief, but you mentioned in your article, Jason, that Blacks are arrested disproportionately. And I remember a poll coming out a couple of days ago that stated that only 1 in 4 Republican voters believe that Blacks are arrested disproportionately. Do you feel like the other 3 and 4 Republicans are just ignorant or racist?
Ooh. I would not go as far as to call Republicans racist. Yeah. I would say, like any other in this industry and in the world, don't laugh at me. To suggest that, just because you're a Republican makes you a racist, I think is a bold, ridiculous statement.
To suggest that you don't realize that Black people are being more disproportionately effective is mildly racist. Like you have to see that. Like if you don't see that, that is mildly racist, right?
When it comes to this industry,
I am sincere in this question to both you and Jason. I am sincere. Yeah. I cannot believe that 3 and 4 Republicans don't believe that Black people are arrested disproportionately for cannabis.
Well, hold on. That maybe that's some skewed data, Dr. Felicia. Just like these criminal statistics that we're reading in this report.
It's not skewed data. You can turn on fucking Fox News. That is real. That is real news, Jason.
Right.
That is real.
I think, Dr. Felicia, the issue is many in the mainstream world who are not familiar with cannabis are ignorant to what is going on in the space. I think that a lot of folks in this country, not just Republicans, live in a bubble. And if it's not in their backyard, they're not paying attention. I don't consider it at all a bit of racism. I think it's not what they're exposed to. I don't think it's just anything that they deal with on a daily basis. And so they don't even consider it. But I don't think that makes them racist.
They just turn their TV off and they just turn the
news
off.
They're like, what?
Let's pretend.
All right. I can appreciate that, Gretchen. Thank you. Thank you for that response.
Talk about it Tuesday.
Oh yeah. We're gonna keep it moving on that. Thank you all for your participation with that. Coming up next, she's a cannabis consultant, an industry veteran, a bullshit buster, and a self-proclaimed general overall data bitch with over 13 years in the regulated market, but with deep roots in the legacy industry as well. So much roots in the legacy industry that she even went to jail for a while for a white-collar crime and did some time. That's right. It is none other than the Nicole West.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. My headline is actually kind of just coming right on the tails of Jason's headline in regards to arrests across the nation. And he did mention about the states that are going to be putting cannabis on the ballot this year. So I wanted to go into a little bit more in depth about that. And I also wanted to make sure that everybody in those states that are felons know their rights as far as voting and when they are able to revote, because I think that this is an important thing that a lot of America gets lied to about on a regular basis. So my headline today is coming out of CNET, where these states have put marijuana legalization on this November ballot. So in Arkansas issue 4 nearly didn't appear on the ballot after the State Board of Elections denied the certification, claiming that the language drafted by advocacy group Responsible Growth of Arkansas was unclear. The state Supreme Court overturned the board's decision in September, paving the way for Arkansas voters to decide whether or not adult use cannabis could be legalized. This measure would allow adults to purchase up to an ounce of cannabis from a licensed retailer. It will also implement a 10% sales tax on cannabis sales across the state, which analysts predict could generate more than $460 million in tax revenue by 2027, which is a lot of money in Arkansas. Unlike several other states, issue 4 does not include a provision to expunge criminal records. Surprise, surprise that Arkansas is not trying to do that. And a September poll conducted by Talk Business and Politics Hendrix College found that 59% of likely supporters are in support of legalization, or 59% of voters are likely in support of legalization, while 29% are opposed and 13% undecided. And I will say that in Arkansas, your vote right is restored after prison, parole, and probation is complete. So then up next, we have Maryland. Maryland, after the lawmakers in Annapolis passed a legislation establishing framework for recreational marijuana legalization, advocates were able to get question 4 before voters on the November 8th ballot. It asks voters, do you favor the legalization of cannabis by an individual who is at least 21 years of age or older after July 1st of 2023 in the state of Maryland? If passed, the amendment would make the purchase and possession of up to 1.5 ounces of cannabis, strange number, legal in the state, along with the cultivation of up to 2 plants for personal use. This isn't me saying peace to everybody. This is the 2 plants that you get in Maryland. Convictions for possession of up to 2.5 ounces would be automatically expunged. Hear those words? Automatically. That's what an expungement should look like. While individuals with convictions for possession with intent to distribute could petition the courts for expungement 3 years after completing their sentence. If proponents of question 4 win, retail sales would likely start in 2024 or 2025 after the state lawmakers address the taxation and regulation in the upcoming legislation. 60% of Maryland residents support the legalization of adult use cannabis, according to an October 2021 poll from Goucher College, compared to 33% who oppose it. And now in Maryland, they have like a little bit of an interesting rule in Maryland. I want to pull this up. So on February 2016, Maryland General Assembly overrode the governor's veto of SB 340 and restored the vote to all convicted felons immediately upon their release from prison. Previously, convicted felons in Maryland had to complete all their parole and probation before they were able to vote. So as of 2016, I know one thing that does happen is when information like this comes out, it often doesn't get disseminated, especially to the people who need it the most. Maryland, as of 2016, if you got out of jail, you are good to vote. So let's go. What do we say? Smoke that vote. So in Missouri, Amendment 3 would allow adults to purchase and possess up to 3 ounces of cannabis and would license, cultivate up to 6 flowering marijuana plants, 6 immature plants, and 6 clones. A 6% sales tax on adult use cannabis would be imposed. I'm really proud of Missouri for this. This is like, whoa, guys, you guys are like plants, clones. You understood that there's a difference. 6% tax, that's a low tax when you're looking at that. With revenue going towards substance treatment programs, veterans health care, and the state public defender system. In addition to this amendment would erase convictions of people with non-violent crimes, which I think that is pretty amazing as well. And then Missouri actually is in the state that your vote's restored after prison, parole, or probation. So that is a positive one for Missouri as well. And then up next, we have North Dakota. North Dakota has Measure 2, drafted by a new approach in North Dakota, largely follows the language of the legislation passed by the Republican-controlled North Dakota House of Representatives last year. If passed, adults in North Dakota would be able to purchase and possess up to 1 ounce of cannabis and 4 grams of marijuana concentrate. They could also cultivate up to 3 plants for personal use. We have 2, we have 3, we have 6. We've got all kinds of numbers here, but in North Dakota, you could have up to 3. There would be no additional tax levied on cannabis, but there also will be no provisions about expungement. So we got a win in North Dakota and a big fat fucking L. So in North Dakota, for anybody who's curious, if you are a felon, your voting rights are restored. Let me see the exact South Dakota is different. North Dakota, your rights are restored after prison. So the moment you get out of prison in North Dakota, you are allowed to vote. And in South Dakota, voters approved legalization of recreational marijuana back in 2020, but that initiative was invalidated by the state Supreme Court following a legal change by Republican Governor Kristi Noem. Now, Measure 27, drafted by South Dakota's for Better Marijuana Laws, would allow for adults to purchase and possess up to 1 ounce of cannabis and cultivate up to 3 plants for personal use. And in North Dakota, you are in fact allowed to vote as soon as your prison time is completed. So I am pretty excited to see these things on the ballot. Oh, sorry, that last one was South Dakota. On March 19th of 2012, HB 1247 was enacted. The bill took the ability for to vote away from convicted felons serving terms of probation. Oh God, previously only people on parole or incarcerated were eligible to vote. Now convicted felons must serve their full time of incarceration, parole, and probation before they may register to vote. So once you are finished with your parole, probation, or terms, you can vote in South Dakota, North Dakota the moment you get out of jail. So that is a strange difference between the Dakotas. But with that said, those 5 states have cannabis on the ballots this year, and I do hope that we are able to rock the vote and get it legalized everywhere. So I'm Nicole West, getting high at 9 with y'all.
That was great run cap on that, Nicole.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that.
Great breakdown.
Yes, it's important for people to know that they have the ability to vote.
It is
very, very important.
The 2016 one, I guarantee you, because in 2016 is when the laws started to overturn as a whole. In 2014 was the first time that it had been addressed federally as far as the voting rights for felons. And so a lot of people in the past 10 years are going on, and this is what happens. And, unfortunately, in the communities where we end up with crimes, right? We don't necessarily have the access to all of the legal information, and people aren't feeding it to us. You know what I mean? They're not like, oh, by the way, you can vote again. Nobody fucking at probation departments, hey, you're able to, nobody fucking does that. So there's
no voter registration when you get out on probation.
Right. And a lot of us are riding on the whatever was told to us in the past in that regard. And it was at one point in a lot of places illegal to vote as a felon, but it's not the case anymore in most places. And I just want to say big shout out to Dana Cisneros, because I posted about 4 years ago how mad I was that I couldn't vote. And she's like, yeah, you can. The law changed 3 years ago. You're allowed to vote. And I was like, what the fuck? How come people don't know about this? And she's like, because criminals don't get information and it's fucked up.
And also fuck Florida for revoking the rights of the former felons that got their right to vote right back. Period. Your boy Ron DeSantis. Jason.
We also have Nick Bradley in the audience to talk about this a little bit. What do you have for us, Nick?
I have a question for Nicole, actually. So what if you were a felon living in one state and have moved, and now that changes your jurisdiction? So how does that play out?
Your registration is based on the regulation in the state. So if I move to South Dakota, I know that I still can, but if you go to a place that you're not allowed to, the voter registration laws apply in the state that you're registering. So there's some places that because you're a felon, you're not allowed to vote. I wouldn't be allowed to vote currently with my record.
Excellent question, Nick.
Yes.
Yeah, super good.
Yes. I did want to throw a quick shout out to Maryland for throwing that extra half ounce for their adults.
I thought that was fun.
We're just giving that a little bit of extra. We really appreciate you, Maryland.
I do. I do. I appreciate it. Oh man. Well, thank you guys all for enlightening me and indulging me on that story, but definitely important for everyone to know what's on the ballot for them as this kind of comes up across the board. And up next, we have Rico Lamitte. Rico Lamitte is the dope dad on the street. He is literally bringing us the information every day. Little bit of soul, little bit of funk, little bit of Rico, little bit of baby talk, little bit of adult talk, a little bit of TED talk. Who knows what he's got today? What do you have for us today, Rico?
A little talk, just a little something, we'll talk about it.
We'll
All right,
talk about
so
Tuesday.
thank you for that beautiful intro, Nicole. My story's my headline is from Yahoo Finance by Andrew Ward. Why do medical cannabis and gun ownership rights conflict so much? Cannabis saved my life and was the only thing that helped me break an opioid addiction I picked up from playing college football. But the reason I never enrolled in California's medical card program after moving here 12 years ago was the even bigger risk of losing my right to buy guns. In 2021, Georgetown University Firearms Survey estimated 33% of U.S. adults reporting owning a gun, and New Frontier data expects 4.7 million Americans to be registered medical cannabis card holders by the end of this year. With federal laws preventing individuals from legally owning firearms while consuming Schedule I drugs, it leaves those of us choosing to use both in legal purgatory. Of course, state and federal rules don't align, and here's where things get murky. Per the article, the ban on gun ownership for medical users stems from a Gun Control Act of 1968 intended to regulate interstate and international firearm commerce while preventing specific individuals from legally participating in the marketplace. Who might be these specific individuals? According to the article, it's anyone using or addicted to Schedule I substances. Under current laws, anyone admitting to using medical cannabis on an ATF background check form will not be approved for gun licenses. Lie about it, you can face up to 5 years in prison, in addition to thousands of fines, also not considered simple possession under Joe Biden's American rules. Recent attempts have been made to revise the ban, like in 2020, late U.S. Representative Don Young sponsored legislation to end the rule. The bill did not advance. In the article, MPP Director of State Policies Karen O'Keefe noted in the House passed the MORE Act. In the House passed MORE Act, they could offer an end to the ban via descheduling, as Nicole always says, deschedule or bust. This past April, Florida Ag Commissioner and Jason Beck's least favorite Florida politician, Nikki Fried, sued the Biden administration over a federal rule that puts medical cannabis using gun owners at risk of imprisonment. In August, the Department of Justice sought to dismiss the case, citing federal cannabis prohibition and the plant Schedule I status, noting Congress has not deemed cannabis to have any medical use before claiming gun-owning potheads pose a public danger. They're more dangerous than alcoholics that piss, shit, and puke all over themselves regularly on random weeknights. Scarier to the public than legal addicts operating heavy machinery on a daily basis, with their next hit just being a $10 copay away. But in September, in their response, the plaintiffs claimed that the Department of Justice failed to demonstrate why the case should be dismissed, with Fried calling the DOJ's reaction insulting, illogical, and ahistorical. Many pot-friendly states like Colorado and California choose not to stick to the federal script on cannabis, but still seem to have issues with gun ownership. California even recently passed worker protection laws for cannabis consumers, but passed on shielding law enforcement, security personnel, commercial vehicle drivers, hazmat response personnel, and others from federal drug testing. Others, like Arizona, which somehow seems to be pro-everything but abortion lately, explicitly allows cannabis patients to own guns, thanks to veteran cannabis groups lobbying for the right to maintain. There's a lot of crazy shit going on in the world today, and with our government repeatedly choosing not to protect our communities and allow addiction-laden opioids continue to be mass marketed to the public, I should not have to choose between wanting to relapse and the right to protect my family from harm. But I don't know. Maybe that's too much to ask in Joe Biden's America. I'm Rico Lamitte, dopest dad on the street for High at 9 News. I'm interested in what everybody else thinks. Do your states that you live in make you choose between the two?
Oklahoma, I think, to my understanding, has the best laws in regards to gun ownership and cannabis.
But I'm confused because even though you can have your state's conversation about it, the ATF, like, I understand people kind of look at it like weed, right? Where we're like, oh, well, the state decided we can do it, even though it's federally illegal. I don't know that we have that same ability to override ATF regulations, do we? Like,
Why not?
States' rights.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a deep conversation with a few different lawyers about this because it's something that has, as a gun interested party, something that I have had to think about a lot for myself. The state may not convict you, but you better believe the ATF can still come banging down your door, taking your guns and throwing you in federal pen. Like,
Right.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, just because your state says you can do it doesn't mean that when you filled out that document, because if you got your gun license, if you're licensed, right? So I know that there's like a lot of older like shotgun regulations in certain states. I'm not having that conversation. I'm talking about like you own a handgun and you went to the government and you did the legal thing, right? You filled out that fucking document. Like, just because your state said, oh, you can be a cannabis user, when you fill out that document, if you say yes, they don't give you your gun permit. And if you say no, you're committing perjury on a government document.
Then you're forced to get ghost guns or illegal or guns illegally if you want to protect yourself.
You're not wrong. But I'm asking like Robbie, you're a lawyer. I'm gonna ask you, Robbie, you're a lawyer. Can the state say it doesn't matter on that on that application? Like, can the state be like, you don't need to have a gun registry? Like,
I'm not even going to pretend to like be an expert in this area. Frankly, like, when it comes to the gun laws and cannabis,
we're in California, so we don't even know.
Yeah, not even. Yeah,
you're not even allowed to have them
at all. I grew up in Arizona, where interestingly enough, like, if you had back before rec, if you had a medical cannabis card, you couldn't get a gun, but you could walk into a bar with a concealed weapon.
Right.
So I'm going to say you can, because if you look at it, if the situation was that you can't, we wouldn't have medical cannabis in the first place at all. Because the federal government has always said that you can't do it.
No, there's no federal regulation on it, Jason. That's the difference. If this was alcohol, my example is if this was alcohol, right? And we were having a conversation about alcohol, not cannabis, right? And could you be like, oh, in my state, we let 12-year-olds smoke or drink alcohol. Can I do that? Do I have states' rights?
A state can do whatever they want.
The state is up to
I understand that, but then the ATF, don't they have the right to come in and regulate?
To pretend it's just like cannabis. I don't understand what the confusion is. The state can do whatever the fuck they want. The feds can come in and step on your neck anytime they want, because federal law will always trump state law.
I'm saying in the way of filling out that document. I'm simply asking is, can the state say that you don't have to? That's what I'm saying. You're still committing fucking perjury. You're still committing perjury if you get your gun.
I think, Nicole, your problem is the state can tell you whatever they want to do. However, you're still breaking federal law. So if you're cool with breaking federal law and hoping that they don't come after you, go for it.
Yeah, but every time you smoke weed, you're breaking federal law.
You committed perjury on the document. It's illegal
for me also to have pot, technically. But the state said I can.
Yep, exactly. That's my take on it too.
Different, but perjury is different.
It's not different. It's crime is crime.
I did some looking up.
I'm pro crime.
When you look at just doing some quick research, they say that lying to the ATF, there's a Washington Post article that says lying to the ATF on gun purchase form yields few prosecutions, the data shows. Yes. And so then I went and looked at the actual form, and so it's question 21E. It says, are you an unlawful user of or addicted to marijuana or any depressant, stimulant, narcotic drug, or any other controlled substance? And this is new since the last time I filled this form out. This is revised May 2020, but it's new since the last time I filled it out. Tells you how long ago I bought a gun.
Extended clip ad.
Not to mention,
I'm in California, bro.
Didn't Hunter Biden lie on a gun application?
It says, warning, the use or possession of marijuana remains unlawful under federal law regardless of whether it has been legalized or decriminalized for medicinal or recreational purposes in the state where you reside.
They straight updated that shit.
That's new. That's new language since last time I filled it out.
Do they do one of those questions on there? Do you accept the Lord Jesus Christ as your savior?
Yeah, that's 22A.
That's on the short form. That's the short form, Rico. That's the only one question they ask.
My God.
But yeah, my thing is this: if you have to lie on the thing, on the form, whatever, you have a right as an American to have a gun. You have a right as an American to smoke some weed, and that just is what it is. And whatever the federal government has to say about it, they can fucking kick rocks. All right, they're not prosecuting Hunter Biden for it. They shouldn't be prosecuting anybody else for it. End of story. Period. That's my opinion.
They ain't prosecuting Donald J. Trump for it. We should be able to do what we want to.
You're so silly.
End of story.
You're so silly. I saw what you did there. I
Let's keep going, Jason.
I saw what you did there, but you know what? We have to go to a commercial. Oh, there we go. Flying into LAX and you want to taste some of the best weed in the world? Then stop by LAXCC, the closest dispensary to LAX, located at 8332 Lincoln Boulevard and open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. Always make LAXCC your first stop when you touch down in LA and score like a winner. And don't forget to tell them I sent you and mention you like to get high at 9 for 10% off your full order.
The thoughts and opinions General Shane thrown on the High at 9 News are those individual speakers, not those of any other speaker or its followers. The statements made do not constitute legal or accounting advice, and our speakers make no representation regarding the legal status of any substance in a country, area, territory, or its authorities. The views expressed in this room do not establish fiduciary relationships. Their sponsors do not imply, constitute the endorsement by us, expression, opinion whatsoever, anyone speaker, or anyone on stage. If you're an easily offended person, the show is probably not for you. Also, what are the gun laws in your state?
And don't forget to vote. October 23rd and 24th, join Bella Flora for their celebrity golf and poker tournament with confirmed attendees like Derek Fisher, formerly of the LA Lakers, celebrity chef Todd English, David Justice of the Atlanta Braves, and Paul Pierce, and many more, with a portion of proceeds benefiting the nonprofit Freedom Grow. Join Bella Flora in Temecula Creek, California, October 23rd and 24th. Go to www.bellafloragolf.com for full sponsorship opportunities.
She's well known in DC circles for cooking up excellence and baking dope-ass treats in her secret basement. But don't let the apron fool you. She's still a feisty redheaded conservative with proven long-form Mayflower roots, a highly questionable love for safe banking, and a spotty memory when it comes to everything except for Republican excellence. Coming up next is the founder of Panoptic Strategies and our very own Washington insider, Gretchen Gailey. What you got for us on this beautiful Tuesday morning?
Good afternoon, Rico. I'm going to keep the gun debate going. My headline comes from Marijuana Moment, and it goes a little deeper into something you mentioned in your story. Florida Ag Commissioner touts team's compelling arguments at medical marijuana and guns hearing in federal court. Florida's agricultural commissioner is feeling good about a court hearing last week where she says her legal team did a compelling job arguing before a federal judge about their lawsuit challenging the Justice Department over the federal ban on gun ownership by medical marijuana patients. Ag Commissioner Nikki Fried filed the lawsuit back in April alongside Florida medical cannabis patients who are unable to buy or possess firearms because of the federal policy that she says is unconstitutional and discriminatory. There have been multiple filings in the case, and the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Florida held an oral hearing on the matter last week. The point of the hearing was to address the Justice Department's motion to dismiss. DOJ has faced criticism over its controversial arguments against the lawsuit, and the department has maintained that statute plainly disqualifies the patients from gun rights because consuming cannabis, even if in compliance with state law, is still federally illegal. The court hasn't yet reached a decision on the motion, but an attorney representing Fried and the patients told Marijuana Moment on Friday that the judge raised thoughtful questions to both parties over the hour-long proceeding, signaling that he's taking the issue seriously. Attorneys did touch on merits of the case, briefly outlining their positions, but formal consideration of those arguments would depend on whether the judge grants or rejects DOJ's motion to dismiss. If the case is dismissed, plaintiffs would then consider appealing the decision to a higher court. Freed said following the hearing that the case reflects the fulfillment of her 2018 campaign promise that I was always going to protect our medical marijuana patients. And so today I've lived up to that promise, and we'll wait to hear what the judge says, the commissioner said. But I think that we did a compelling job to make sure we get their motion to dismiss and we continue on their merits of this case. The arguments in DOJ's initial request for the lawsuit to be dismissed took some by surprise, as the department cited historical case law to support the cannabis ban that drew parallels between medical cannabis patients and people who are mentally ill, panhandlers, Catholics, and other groups that were previously deprived of the right to possess firearms. In its most recent filing last month, the department seemed to partially back off its prior assertions that cannabis makes people more inclined towards violent crime in general, but it did say that those who consume marijuana are intrinsically too dangerous to own guns because they're breaking federal law, even if it's a misdemeanor offense. Freed and others in an early filing in the case took issue with the department's insistence that medical marijuana patients are inherently dangerous, while still maintaining that people who drink alcohol have a lawful Second Amendment right because drinking is federally legal for adults. DOJ's original motion for dismissal read as insulting, Freed told Marijuana Moment in August. I think that they missed the ball here, and it's very disconcerting that this is the direction they took. Biden's Justice Department relied on arguments as contradictory and unstable as their overall marijuana policy. That's what her last filing said. The plaintiff's complaint was also revised in July following a Supreme Court ruling that generally created a higher standard for policies that seek to impose restrictions on gun rights. The ruling states that any such restrictions must be consistent with the historical context of the Second Amendment's original 1791 ratification. That filing also cited several quotes from U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland, who said during his confirmation proceedings that DOJ shouldn't waste resources going after people acting in compliance with state marijuana laws, and that marijuana is a nonviolent crime with respect to usage that does not require us to incarcerate people. For the time being, the current federal policy persists, making it so people are denied gun purchases if they're honest about their cannabis use while filling out a Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives ATF background check form, regardless of state law. It does go a bit more into Biden and his son and his issues with getting a gun when he was a bit mentally unstable. And Biden, just like everyone else thinks, got fuzzy on that one. He must have forgot when he was hiding out in the basement. But when it comes to this specific case, I really do hope that the judge will not go ahead and dismiss it. I hope that this really does get the hearing that it needs. And if it does not, it should go to the Supreme Court, because this is a ridiculous infraction upon people's Second Amendment rights. This is Gretchen for High at 9 News.
Oh, man, Gretchen, I do want to thank Nikki Freed for doing this. I think this is valuable for the whole cannabis community. So I do want to give her big shout outs in this case, and I wish her much luck in scoring a win for us.
I do want to ask as to why Catholics were listed on the list of, it says patients and people who are mentally ill, panhandlers, Catholics, and other groups previously deprived. I had to put the quote in the chat because I was like, she didn't just fucking say that, did she? So I went back to the article.
No. It's DOJ said that, not her.
No. I understand that. I understand the DOJ said that. I'm saying you. Her is in you, like when you were reading it, I didn't realize. Well, I heard what you said, but then I was like, she didn't say that, did she? Like, that's not what she said. Like, maybe I heard the word wrong. You know what I mean? So I went back to the article just to read that sentence. And yes, the DOJ said this exact thing, but I just thought it was curious. Why are Catholics listed with mentally ill and panhandlers?
I mean, if you're history-wise, Catholics were greatly prejudiced. People did not like Catholics. I mean, it was a big deal.
But why would they be?
He was elected president because he was a Catholic. No one liked Catholics. Catholics were immigrants.
Why would they not be able to have? But why would they be listed? First of all, it's 2022. Why the fuck does that matter in the conversation? Listing them next to mentally ill and panhandlers. I'm just confused as to how there would even be a parallel, and or what. How were they restricted from guns? How were they restricted from guns at one point in Florida? It sounds like. How is that even?
No, I don't think it was in Florida. I think it was overall. But I don't have the DOJ's initial suit that they brought forward that listed the Catholics, but they were heavily a ethnic group, I guess you would call them, that was greatly persecuted when they first came to this country. So I don't find it
Holy
surprising
shit.
whatsoever.
There was a
This-
disarmament of all Catholics in like 17. Okay. All right.
This is why we had the Boondock Saints.
Oh,
Spray everybody up in the
Rico.
congregation.
Oh man, that was such a good movie.
Interesting.
I don't know. I just hope this case keeps going.
Me too.
I do too.
I'm rooting for this case. Yeah,
I'm gonna figure out why Catholics were listed with mentally ill and panhandlers in this article.
I mean,
I'll let you guys know
I
why.
have a guess. I have a guess.
Historical context.
I have a guess. I think it's a little bit more recent history than past history, but that's not.
Yeah, the historical context on this is so irrelevant to that statement. I'm just confused. Like,
yeah.
All look right. For the DOJ's original filing. See what they put there.
Long live JFK.
I wish I had my pew 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 pow 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 sound on my soundboard right now, but I don't.
Pew, pew, pew.
Oh, no, it's getting made. It's getting made. It hasn't been uploaded yet, but nonetheless, we're gonna keep it going. Thank you guys all so much. She's a cannabis patient, a plant medicine advocate, also the founder of Purple Plant Magic, national brand ambassador for Black Buddha Cannabis, and the Encyclopedia on Power 88 in Las Vegas every Wednesday morning. It is none other than Nicole Buffon.
Thank you so much, Jason, for that wonderful introduction. My story today is out of Liverpool, and I have some really exciting news because since we've been on the show, a news story has broken that I think might be related to this. So straight in, street dealer who smoked cannabis from age 13 caught with knife yet again. A street dealer who smoked cannabis daily from the age of 13 was caught with a knife for the second time in just over a year. Craig Baker, then 19, was spotted walking along Poolton Road in Wallasey at around 3 p.m. on December 9th last year. Liverpool Crown Court heard the teenager came to the attention of plainclothes police officers on patrol in the area. Derek Jones, prosecuting, told the court the defendant was by now walking along Sherlock Lane and appeared to be nervous, looking backwards and forwards furtively. Because of that, the police decided to stop and talk to the defendant. They got out of the car and approached him and immediately smelled cannabis coming from him. The defendant was detained. There was a brief attempt to run away, but the officers restrained him. Mr. Jones said Baker appeared visibly shocked and startled by the sudden appearance of the officers. He was searched and a lock knife with a very sharp 5-inch blade was recovered from his pocket. And in his other coat pocket, the officers found 3 bags of cannabis, described as 2 dime bags, $10 bags or 10 franc bags, and 1 $20 bag. While they also found a Nokia phone in his pocket, which was unlocked. An officer checked the device and said it was immediately clear it had been used to advertise cannabis and arrange deals. The phone appeared to have been in use for a number of months, but Mr. Jones said although the transactions were for small amounts of the Class B drug, Mr. Jones told the court as Becker was transported back to custody, the phone rang around 20 times. The phone was later analyzed in more detail and was found to have been to send flare messages referring to mass text messages sent to multiple customers advertising different strains of cannabis. Becker had also used another phone to source ounce deals of cannabis to sell. Mr. Jones said Becker had been arrested. Had been arrested in 2020, where he found in possession of a knife. He was sentenced to 4 months in prison and suspended for 12 months of that offense. Becker gave no comment at his time of being arrested, and he said he was concerned. He admitted being concerned in the supply of cannabis, possession of a bladed article, and possession of cannabis. Interesting. So he started smoking cannabis from the age 13 or 14. This is what the defending lawyer said in court. And Mr. Wood has been on abstention for the last couple of weeks. And so you could tell the difference, they're saying. He said, Mr. Wood said Becker, who suffered from serious depression, had absolutely no support in his life. And it was obvious as the day is long, he needed educational and emotional support. The judge jailed Becker anyway for 6 months and for being concerned in the supply of cannabis and 146 days consecutively for possession of a knife, making a total of 326 days in prison. What is interesting is that right after that, or recently in the last hour, another article came out, hundreds of cannabis plants seized in raids 37 minutes ago. Same, Liverpool. Hundreds of cannabis plants, crack cocaine, and heroin have been seized in a series of major police raids across Merseyside and Cheshire. Operation Crossbow is what they're calling it. 25 people arrested across Liverpool and rural on Monday. So interesting how this failed war on cannabis keeps going around. But when I found this story of this young man, and they're portraying him like, smoking weed from such a young age, and then this big bust happens a few days later after his case is heard. I just find it interesting. I don't know if there's a connection. I'd love to hear what my fellow correspondents think. This is Nicole reporting for High at 9 News.
Oh, I think there's probably a connection. I'm willing to put money that this kid started snitching, and that's how they found this place.
It's always a snitch.
What do you guys think? What do you guys think? You think he was snitching? You see the picture of this guy, this kid?
I think this was.
I would not want to run into this kid I would not want to meet him in a back alley. Okay?
No,
he looks spooky.
Hey guys, I think this is. We're definitely short on time. We want to make sure we hop.
All right, let's keep him in. Yeah, he does look pretty fucking scary there, but we got to keep it going. Our next correspondent and bringing us the heat. He's our resident tech guy and voice behind the High at 9 intro. Despite rumors on Reddit circulating, calling him an air traffic controller. I have no idea where those came from. He's a regulated cannabis industry vet with 13 years experience, currently holding it down as a product manager at Blaze, overseeing retail software products. And come to the stage next, it's Ed Schwartz. What you got for us, my brother?
I may watch a bunch of air traffic control videos, but definitely not an air traffic controller. So don't keep those rumors flying, folks. My article actually comes out of The Ganjapreneur, which is probably one of my favorite website titles, just because I've always loved the term Ganjapreneur. But they've got an article coming out of my lovely home state of Colorado, and Colorado is getting ready to vote on psilocybin legalization next month. So finally, we decriminalized in Denver about a year or two ago, and now we're looking for the entire state. And so the state of Colorado is going to decide whether to legalize not only psilocybin, but also psilocin. I really appreciate the clarification there. Those are the two primary psychoactive compounds found in what is known as magic mushrooms. If approved, the Natural Medicine Act, or Prop 122, would also decriminalize personal possession of the fungi and allow people to grow their own. The measure would allow licensed quote-unquote healing centers to provide psilocybin and psilocin for therapeutic purposes. Natural Medicine Colorado, the group backing the effort, told Colorado News Online that natural psychedelic medicines are non-additive and can have profound benefits for people struggling with mental health conditions, including depression and anxiety, and those struggling to find peace at the end of their lives. An issue committee supporting the reforms reported more than $2.8 million in contributions, with nearly all of that funding coming from the Washington, D.C.-based New Approach PAC, according to campaign finance disclosures outlined by Colorado News Online. The New Approach PAC also supported the successful natural psychedelic decriminalization measures in Oregon and Washington, D.C. in 2020. Psychedelic mushrooms are already decriminalized in Denver, which happened in 2019, to make the substance the city's, quote, lowest law enforcement priority. So still kind of illegal, but they're not going to do anything about it. There's an organization that opposes it called Protect Colorado Kids, and they were also opposed to broad cannabis legalization in the state, and they have reported that they have raised only $750. Pretty stark difference from the $2.8 million for the New Approach PAC. If passed, the Natural Medicine Act would actually create a 15-member natural medicine advisory board to oversee the regulation of psychedelic substances. The first licenses for providers would be issued in September 2024, which can't come soon enough. Pending recommendations from the advisory board, including adding other substances such as DMT and mescaline, could also be added to the program in 2026. According to a Fox 31 news poll, Fox 31 being the local Fox affiliate in Denver, they published a poll in September, and 36% of voters said they would support the measure, with 41% opposed and 23% unsure. My name's Ed Schwartz, and I'm reporting here on behalf of High at 9, and let's make sure we get those support numbers up.
How many dollars did you say?
So the New Approach PAC, who is backing the bill and who also got the ones done in Oregon and DC, they have reported more than $2.8 million in contributions. or excuse me, they've been a large contributor of the $2.8 million to the committee that's sponsoring the reform. And then Protect Colorado Kids, who's pretty much the only organization being noted that's opposing it publicly, they have reported raising just $750.
Yeah. Okay, I have a quick question. It's crazy how they are allowing mescaline and psilocybin to be in a natural medicine category, but not cannabis. That just blows.
It blows my mind too, Nicole.
I
Totally
do appreciate.
baffles me.
I do have to say, I know we were short on time, but I do want to throw out a huge appreciation to the people, the sponsors of this bill, for also leaving the legal ability to include DMT and mescaline. I can tell you, as somebody who has used a decent amount of psychoactive substances, nothing has performed more healing for me than DMT. So really excited to see a state actually start to move towards, hey, we can heal people with these things. We're creating healing centers. It's amazing.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for that headline and that story, Ed. That was very interesting. And I do hope that we get some legalized psilocybin and psilocin in Colorado. Up next, we have Robbie Pinaminini. This cannabis investor, business developer, and licensing attorney spends his days calling the shots on what's next as the head of corporate development of the delivery machine that is Ease, and his nights recovering from his mentally exhausting days as a regulatory gymnast, as a lawyer, and a trusted advisor to the cannabis industry. Robbie, what do you have for us today?
Thanks, Nicole. I appreciate that introduction. Today's headline is Cory Booker says Congress has a good shot at passing marijuana reform during lame duck session. Senator Cory Booker says that Congress has a good shot of passing modest marijuana reforms, including banking and justice provisions, during the lame duck session after the midterm elections. He also stressed that lawmakers might not have the same opportunity if Republicans take either chamber next year. In an interview that was published on Monday, the senator said that leadership was engaged in active negotiations over a package of cannabis proposals before the August recess. And he recently discussed the legislation with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and felt that they'd made progress at the meeting. Booker said it's very likely that during the lame duck before the new Congress, we're going to see a really good bipartisan attempt to move it. Maybe it's not the legalization bill that I wrote with Schumer and Senate Finance Committee Chairman Ron Wyden, but an effort to tie in restorative justice and some fair banking provisions. Booker also said, I think it has a good chance because our Republican allies also understand that what if one of the houses of Congress shifts to Republican, it will be very hard to do anything on marijuana. Booker also reiterated that he's still a little frustrated that state-level legislation hasn't seen the democratizing effect that advocates had hoped would come with reform with respect to industry equity. He pointed out that few New Jersey marijuana business licenses are owned by minorities. The Senate has got to move and pass a bill that deals with a lot of areas: restorative justice, making the banking industry equally available, and investing tax revenue to help with addiction and create economic opportunities and deal with the sins of the past, Booker said. The senator also weighed in on President Joe Biden's recent move to issue mass pardons for people who've committed federal marijuana possession offenses, saying again that he feels that there are more steps to be taken. You know, it's interesting, you know, we keep seeing these headlines that it's the same thing all the time, you know, fair, you know, we might have safe banking, you know, we need to focus on industry equity. But I think the citations about, you know, New Jersey license holders and, you know, the low percentage of social equity, I mean, the economics don't match any of the social equity legislation that I've seen anywhere in the country. Like, you're taking a business that requires a huge amount of upfront capital. You're restricting this person from transferring it. You're requiring that they have to have an X number of percentage, and basically handicap them from freely transacting and be able to actually make some money on some of these deals.
Deschedule or bust is my my real statement to that. Like, we literally have to deschedule this plant. Like, all of these conversations are so fucking, I mean, they're important, you know,
but they're worthless without
they're
there's
almost
no teeth behind them, right?
Right. I'm just like, well, okay, so then we've got banking, and now you could still fuck with us and take away our banking. Like, I don't know that without descheduling, that like a lot of these problems will ever actually be solved. Like, right? We're gonna be like Vicodinating the problem, where you just like throw a pain med at it rather than like figure out like, what's wrong with your fucking arm? You know, like
that's what led to my addiction.
I don't think anyone is suggesting that safe banking is going to solve our problems. I think we all agree that descheduling is the only way that's going to fix anything.
We agree on the show.
Safe banking is the easiest one to get to, right? Is that what you're saying, Gretchen?
a safe banking is a first step that these guys are willing to take, and we should. And I know we hate this whole idea of piecemeal and just giving us what they're willing to do, but I think Cory Booker, for once, is correct that if we don't do it in the lame duck, it's going to be a hard push.
Yes,
here's my
safe banking already.
Here's my counter to that, Gretchen. Like, when is America gonna stop putting banking first? That's what got us out of the trough of the recession, right? When the banks were bailed out, and we're in the same fucking shit we are now. Fuck the banks. Help the people.
I love that you say fuck the banks, but the people aren't out there voting saying fuck the banks. You want to get rid of this mentality, you need to put people in there. I mean, go ahead and vote for the crazy libertarians and all the Green Party. That's not happening. That's not who America's putting in charge. You want to see this shit change.
Who's really crazy?
You gotta really
is it the Republicans
at the
putting
level
out this
that we
bullshit?
can.
The Democrats saying that they're going to do everything, or is it the libertarians?
To pretend that it's just Republicans, they all suck. Democrats are also on board.
Exactly.
It was, good old Obama.
Exactly. There's prohibitionists on both sides of the aisle.
On all sides.
Money is what speaks in this country, and I'm sorry that you have a hard time accepting it, but that's how it fucking works.
I don't have a hard time accepting
the golden
it.
rule.
I 100% acknowledge that, but I refuse to internalize it. I refuse to accept that into my body.
I understand it's hard.
You can refuse to accept anything, but the reality.
I'm also 100 pounds and a fucking supermodel, but it ain't just happening. I mean, we gotta live
I get it. Gretchen with Gretchen.
Supermodels do not have enough booty for me. Just so you
Gretchen
know.
with Gretchen.
Gretchen does though. Let's go.
Hey.
Happy Monday.
Thickness.
Yeah. Oh, that's fucking great. That's great.
With all due respect.
Yes.
Yeah.
With all due respect.
Either way, I think we're out of time.
Yeah, we are.
Well, today.
Thank you.
What a great show.
Thank you all for thank you, Ravi, for that story, and thank you everyone for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in, and to our listeners for being here through all of this insanity. And thank you to the haters for still talking about us. Huge thank you to True Classic, Bella Floor Tournament, and the LAXCC for helping us keep the lights on, and to our correspondents for being amazing. Thank you to Cannabis for giving us a reason to do this, and 3 is 4 for helping us create space in this crazy mini-verse. Thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us.
Bye.
Oh, yeah. Talk about it Tuesday.
You are tuned in to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebs and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and enthogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck, Rico Lamitte, and Nicole West, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for getting high at 9 with us.